Oh yeah, it's a big issue. And basically, we have so much garbage, right? We are kind of in this era of, a lot of production and people over consuming, and we have so much litter that we don't really know what to deal with it, and a lot of people think it's okay to just burn it. But that's an issue. It doesn't really get rid of it. We just have all these chemicals that end up in the air, and then we kind of breathe that in, and all the animals around us and the plants around us get affected by those chemicals. So litter is a really big issue when it comes to air pollution as well. Okay, and wildfires. So living in BC, we know that's a big issue here, right? So approximately 40% of wildfires in BC are caused by humans and litter. So these are the three items that are the biggest issues. So we have cigarettes. We've heard a lot about wildfires being started by cigarettes, unfortunately. Batteries, they can kind of start a fire. And also broken glass, which is like, you don't always think about it, but if the sun's hitting it the right way, that's going to start a wildfire. So we want to make sure, especially with these around the summer, these items, we really want to make sure we dispose of them properly.
How does a battery start a fire?
From my understanding, they can kind of combust on their own and start a fire. So it's like the chemicals.
The sun hits it.
Sorry?
The sun hits it.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually haven't really looked far into it.
It's a science term because back in school, like we did a project with the battery and we tested the battery. Like we connect the battery to the wire to a potato to see how it to make the light bulb go on.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like that little experiment.
Yeah, and it can kind of spark, I think, too, and then that can cause the fire. So. Yeah, so usually with batteries, we think that if it's not really connected to anything, we don't have to worry about them. But if it's dry outside, it can cause a big issue. And another one, when litter is on the side of the road, it can cause accidents. There's thousands of car accidents that happen each year due to plastic bags or other things, maybe going onto the windshield and the driver can't see, or maybe it's something that they have to swerve around. So a really big issue is litter along highways. Also, if it's food, wildlife are attracted to that food and they can cross the highway and that's another accident. So that's a big issue and it's really hard to clean litter on highways. We actually can't clean litter on highways. We're not able to. So it really hurts every time I drive on the highway and I see litter on the side because I can't really do anything about it. But that's a really large issue. So that's something I want to combat in the future and figure out a good way to do it. But it's hard to get a group out to, it's such a dangerous situation, right?
You would have to get BC Highways involved in that.
Yeah.
Well, it's usually what it is. It's usually the prison people that go out and do it.
Yeah, so then another, as I've mentioned, litter hurts our wildlife, right? And they don't have a choice but to be around this litter. It's all because of us, right? So not only does litter attract unwanted critters, it puts their lives at risk. So you may see raccoons in your garbage or bears around and other things like that. And these animals often eat toxic chemicals or household waste, causing illness or death. But they don't have a choice because we're the ones who are putting them out there, right? And then they flock to heavily littered roadways, putting them in danger of getting hit. They get their heads or limbs stuck or entangled, preventing them from breathing, moving, or flying. And they can get caught inside plastic bags, causing them to suffocate. So the wildlife here is so important. We have such a rich variation of wildlife in BC, right? And we want to protect them. We have lots of critters that are at risk of extinction too, and we want to make sure we protect them. And it all depends on us, their safety, right? And another one, as I was driving by the river and going past the lake here, I was thinking about water pollution. So marine life can become entangled or trapped and often mistake plastic waste or discarded fishing gear to be food. I learned that turtles eat jellyfish. I actually didn't really know that. But a lot of the issues that they see is that they have really poor eyesight and they can mistake like a plastic bag or something for a jellyfish, and that's a huge issue. You might have seen the typical turtle that's in the the rings, the plastic rings for cans. They have really poor eyesight. A lot of marine animals do have poor eyesight, so it's really important to keep all these things out of the water because, like I said, wildlife, it's hard for them to protect themselves from litter because they're not naturally made to do that, right? So we really have to do our part.
And that includes boats too out of the water.
Exactly, yeah. So another issue is microplastics. Yeah, so litter increases the presence of microplastics in our soil, water, and air. But what are microplastics? So basically, as time goes by, a big piece of plastic kind of degrades into little pieces of plastic to the point where we can't even really see them anymore. But then when they're so tiny, they get into everything. They get into your water, you're drinking microplastics, you don't realize it. It's in food, different things like that. And microplastics often take up to 1,000 years to decompose. So a big issue is plastic. So if you want to, it's kind of hard because so many things are made of plastic, right? But if we can somehow reduce how much plastic we use, so there's a lot of companies that are using disposable compostable.
Straws.
Yeah, straws are an issue.
But disabilities have a problem with that because it melts on them. Sometimes they eat them, so that's why sometimes they're going to go back to the plastic because
I see.
they have an issue with.
Yeah.
I really hate the paper straws.
And I agree, the paper straws are awful too, so I think it's
hard to suck through.
it's about time to figure out a solution for that, hey?
You know what I don't get is that we buy our groceries with ketchup bottles and all kinds of stuff that plastic revolves around it, and we go home with it, but they won't give me a plastic bag because it has to save the environment. You need to save the environment. They need to save the environment through what we're buying.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's hard. I do see a lot of shops that are slowly popping up where they're like the refillable shops. I don't know if there's many in Mission, but I know in like Chilliwack and areas like that where you can just bring a jar or something and then just fill it there, so you're not having like the plastic. Yeah, the plastic packaging, things like that, and using reusable bags. But it's hard too when we're looking for convenience, right? So yeah, it's all about those little habits changing over time, but it is really, really hard and something to think about, right? So another issue with health hazards is that litter contributes to the spread of disease. So when trash is improperly discarded, it's a really good breeding ground for germs and bacteria. And humans that come in contact with litter through touch or indirectly through animals, so say that your pet goes out and finds something that's covered in harmful germs and they lick your face, your dog, you can get sick. I know it's really gross, hey, but it's an issue because litter is obviously really dirty, right? And due to litter pollution in water and soil, we're often ingesting microplastics, like I said. And we obviously shouldn't have microplastics in our system. So what we do at METS is that we talk about the 4 R's. So the 4 R's are ways to decrease waste production. So you probably have heard of reduce, reuse, recycle, but we added one more, refuse. So that's like what I said, don't take what you don't need and try to refuse to use single-use plastics. It's not always the easiest, but when you can, it really can make a difference in the long run. So even just say like bringing your reusable bags to the grocery store. That's already a plastic bag that is not being wasted, right? And then we also have reduce. So try to reduce your overall waste production. Choose products with less packaging or more environmentally friendly packaging, or buy in bulk. So like I said, those refillable stores, you can bring a big container and fill a whole bunch of stuff in there, and actually ends up being a little cheaper when you buy a bulk too, or go to Costco and places like that. So there's also reuse. So invest in high quality items that can be used many times. A big issue, if you've heard of it, is kind of this fast fashion industry, and they're kind of low quality items that you just wear a couple times. But if you invest in a really good like wool sweater, that's gonna last you many, many years, and that's a lot of waste being waste that we're avoiding, right? And then next is recycle. So recycling and disposing of products responsibly. I've been going to the recycle depot in Mission a lot more, and there's actually a lot of things that you wouldn't realize you can recycle that we just put in our garbage, so like soft plastics and things like that. So it's a really good resource to recycle as well, and that really decreases waste production.
But did you know that the foam stuff, you have to throw it in the garbage out here? They don't recycle it here.
Styrofoam?
Yeah, it's hard because I think also in different areas, like different cities, it's all different too, like what you can and what you can't. But I believe that the recycling like website for Mission is pretty good, or they have a recycling app where you can kind of quickly. Oh, you do? Awesome.
Yeah, I have
Like
the
quickly
recycling.
look it up, and then it'll tell you if you can take it to the recycling depot or how to best dispose of it. Okay, so what can you do to prevent litter? So like I said, proper waste management. Put waste in its place. If it is easy, right, just to put a whole bunch of stuff in the garbage, but if you just take that extra like minute or two and put it in the right place, it can really make a big difference, because things like e-waste, things like paper, and like batteries and other things like that, there's places where you can put that where it's really going to make a big difference compared to when you put it in the garbage. They can, even yesterday, I changed the ink cartridge in my printer, and HP has a system where you can send it back to them and they'll reuse it.
Or Staples does it.
Yeah, exactly. So even just that, if we put that in the garbage, that would have been a lot of plastic and chemicals.
Staples doesn't do it anymore.
Oh,
No,
Staples.
actually, no, they do. I walked in there yesterday and they take recycling.
Maybe it depends on the Staples.
You just have to tell them it. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
No, Mission too.
But yeah, so putting things in the right place is really important, and just taking that extra time to be a bit more mindful and to put things in the right place can make a really big difference in the environment. And another way that you can sustain our environment is to be a good environmental and community steward. So a steward, the definition of stewardship is when the responsibility of something is kind of put on,
It's like
on a group of people.
Yeah, leadership.
Yeah, exactly. So when we talk about environmental stewardship, it's kind of about how the health of the environment and wildlife is kind of on us, right? So that's environmental stewardship. So to be a good environmental and community steward, you have to make choices to reduce your carbon footprint as much as possible. So if you can ride your bike, bring a reusable bag, shop secondhand, things like that. That's a good way of being a steward. You can also educate others on the impact of litter. You can dispose of your waste correctly, or you can volunteer with us. So we do lots of group cleanups. One of the last cleanups I did was at Devil's Lake, if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah.
And we picked over 300 pounds of litter.
Ew, gross.
Yeah, it is gross, but at least it's out of the water, right?
Yes, they do.
We have pickers and buckets and everything. It's super clean.
I've done it once. I've done that a few times.
You have? Awesome. Yeah, so, and just this year we've almost reached 10,000 pounds of litter. So that's 10,000 pounds of litter that would have just stayed out there and would have been impacting wildlife and the plants and everything around us, right? So we really think it's important to have volunteers. We wouldn't be able to do so much without volunteers, right? So yeah, 10,000 pounds. It's pretty crazy how much you can get rid of. Okay, so I talked about stewardship already, but again, the careful and responsible management of something entrusted in one's care. Wildlife and the plants and everything, with us living around them, they can't really advocate for themselves, so we have to help them out. The meaning, taking on responsibility to protect and sustain our environment for future generations. So what we do now is going to impact generations, grandkids, kids we won't even see, right? So it's really important that we do our part now. So why do communities need environmental stewards? Stewardship contributes to sustainability by linking the environment, the economy, and community well-being. So historically, the top-down approach is not always the most effective. The government isn't always going to do everything, right? So we have these nonprofit organizations like us.
You should
that
talk
do
to
our part.
conservatives on that.
Yeah. And only the citizens of a community can say what their needs are and prioritize them, right? So our nonprofit, we prioritize the environment and litter. So it's really important that we do our part and come together because no one else is going to do it if we don't. And then people of all cultures and beliefs connect as a united front. So you see lots of people volunteering. It brings like a sense of community, right? And you meet lots of great people who have the same passions as you. So communities really need environmental stewards because someone has to do it, right? And how does our community benefit from stewardship? Beautification. I drive around Mission to find new spots to clean, and the parks are
And you know where Junction Mall is?
Yes.
That walkway?
Yes.
I told the district many times, I walk by there, and I know there's that Mike guy, he's the director.
Oh yeah.
So I talked to him, and they say it's the BC highways that deal with it.
Oh
but
yeah.
they used to do it before.
Yeah.
But I said many times, you got to get somebody down there. There's like big piles of garbage, like even a cart like full.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
I had to pick them up there, and it's like.
Yeah, and it's hard when it's hidden because sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes we think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
If it's hidden and you can't see it, but it still makes a difference.
Yeah, because that's always the baddest part in there.
Yeah. But yeah, so if we can keep our community clean and visually appealing, we're attracting more people into our community, and it just feels better, right? Like we want to see a clean community. We don't want to walk through garbage every day. Conservation as well. It combats pollution and protects biodiversity. So biodiversity, talking about all the different plants and animals, really important, especially in BC. We have a really rich biodiversity. We have lots of different types of animals and plants. So by being a steward in your community, you're really protecting biodiversity. There are community building effects. Creates an identity or culture. We've been in the community since 1994, and we wouldn't be able to do it without having the community around us and having lots of volunteers. And it also inspires and encourages sustainable practices for the people around us. Yeah, that's all that I have today. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. All right, in the red back there, you're the first one.
I know some animals was in the water. They put it like garbage in the water, like use like oil or garbage. It's affecting all the creatures in the water. But how we can clean it, but we can't clean it. This turns the poison on the animals, like sailfish or fish or like the oceans, like Calgary, like everywhere.
Yeah, it's a really big issue. You might have seen the garbage island that's in the ocean that a lot of people talk about, and lots of oil spills. Yeah, and sometimes it's like really hard to get rid of those things, right? And it takes really big groups and lots of money to do those things. And I think a big thing to keep in mind is prevention and like preventing those things from happening. So if we do our part and we keep garbage out of the ocean and things like that, we're preventing that from happening again, right? And being really careful about, I mean, it's the big companies with the oil, right? But for them to have a part in making sure they're sustainable, but it's hard, right? But a lot of people are a lot of companies are thinking about money, so yeah.
Yeah, the question that I have is how do they clean up like a major freeway like the Trans-Canada one, for example? Because I know from experience, like I remember the one time I was heading back home from Vancouver, I was like listening on the traffic radio. It said something about a box that had fallen in the middle of the road, and then they had to run. There was a box.
Yeah, so that's gonna be more government based. So if it's something big like that, the city, that whoever owns that part of the highway is going to come in and collect that to take it off. So unfortunately, we don't deal with dangerous situations like that because they're more trained to do stuff like that. But as someone mentioned, BC Highways kind of deals with like picking up litter and like lots of like men from the men's prison and things like that. Well, you might see them on the side of the road picking up litter. So yeah.
So our big highways are owned by the or taken care of by the federal government, so the government in Ottawa. So that's why when things happen on those highways, outside of car accidents, but for litter, then they bring in somebody from the federal government. So usually the prisoners, they volunteer for that.
What days we can help out?
Yeah, so
You have a schedule?
yeah, so on our website, so I should have brought cards. I forgot to bring cards today, but it's messsociety.ca or so you can just look up Mission Mess, MESS. And we have our schedules on our website and like on our social medias as well. If you use like Facebook and Instagram, we always update when we have cleanups. Yeah, in the back.
Me, I don't have a question.
Oh,
Dwight.
I'll drop
I'll
that.
I
take
would
it.
like to say I work for the city and we seem to have problems with rats and I
Oh,
see
yeah.
little holes in the mailbox. That's been happening.
Yeah, actually litter is quite involved with rats in some cases. So when we make sure that we keep like food waste and stuff in the right
They
place.
even have these little, what they call boxes that trap the rat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it seems to be a problem because I work cleaning out the garbage and eventually I will retire.
Yeah, so I think the big part of it is kind of preventing rats from coming in like near places that you may be around, right? So making sure that we're taking litter away. Even at my house, we have an apple tree and we get rats because they want the apples, right? And bears too. So we want to make sure that we keep our area really clean because that kind of attracts rats and other things. But rats are a hard one because they're kind of all around and they're so small you don't see them sometimes. But yeah, that's a really big issue.
I think Josh should
Yeah.
I think Josh first.
Well, no, it's not really a question, but so I work at Superstore in Mission. So I've been noticing as so funny thing. We're talking about saving the environment. So my store comes up with this how should I say this? Like they instead of putting them in the bins, we actually like put them in plastic bags. Like we put the clear so what we do is like we put like the clear plastic in one bag, we put our little sticker of our store number on it, and we put them in bags in each of them, and then we just put them back on the truck instead of like, and then they sort it out instead of like us having to deal with it and
Okay.
like start throwing away.
Elizabeth?
Not really a question, but one time I was going over on a trip and I saw you have a big truck.
Mhm.
The guy that was smoking in his truck and he kind of shook his cigarette
Oh,
outside
no.
the window. Like, ew, who does that?
I know, yeah, I've even seen people flick cigarettes and I've seen wildfires just quickly start up right on the side of the road, so we really gotta be careful with those.
Well, that's one thing, they took the ashtrays out, but people can use, I mean, I'm a smoker, I have a bottle with water in my.
I was just after something happened. I came back from home. I look in the front yard. Something wrong. The garbage can. There was a fried crab coop. All in the garbage can.
I know, they just love the garbage.
Oh, what a mess.
Yeah, and they can carry litter around. Yeah, it's hard to keep them away, hey, because they're really smart too, and they can get in there.
And they're really quick.
They are.
Laura?
Yeah.
I just had a question, like when you pick up litter and stuff, are you still able to recycle it and separate it, or do you just put it into garbage?
Yeah, so we try our best to recycle. It's kind of hard when we're picking up so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do have to kind of just put quite a bit of it in the garbage, unfortunately. But it's kind of hard because we're trying to get it off of the street and at least take it out of areas that it's not supposed to be, like the lake that we clean up at. But if we can, we try to separate metals at least and take those out. And if we see cans and stuff and bottles, we try to get rid of those. But sometimes it's hard when it's the little things as well. But we try our best. Yeah.
Do you separate it like at the moment that you pick it up, or just like take it and then do it?
Yeah, we try to do it kind of in the moment. It's kind of hard because the cleanups can be really long, and the landfill is actually so far out in Mission. So when we have to go, it takes many. It's a very long event. But yeah, so we kind of try to do it in the moment. So if people find bottles and stuff, we just say try to keep them aside, or we'll give them 2 bags so they have one for garbage and one for more recycled stuff. But yeah, we try our best. We're not perfect, but we try our best.
Lady next to you. Yeah.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Actually, I have we put garbage like on the benches where
Mm.
people sit.
Mhm.
And I noticed, people walking around with carts
Mhm.
with like, I don't know what it is,
Plastic gloves.
Mhm.
people like just walking around back alleys, and that's why I get mad when people push stuff everywhere, like
Mhm.
on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it can be frustrating.
After
Yeah.
you just did it.
Yeah. We do pick up needles, and we are trained to pick up sharps. But we try not to ask too many people to do it, but we will train people on sharps disposal and how to pick it up.
That's what she's trying to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there are sharps and stuff, we can get rid of those types of things too. Yeah.
Go to Walmart, I see people leave their garbage on their shelves.
Mhm.
Empty coffee cups, take it with, I
Yeah.
always take mine with me.
Yeah, it just takes like a couple extra seconds to think about and carry it
Mhm.
with you just to a garbage, right? Yeah, right here.
When you, I've seen this on YouTube, but people dispose of baby kittens and puppies in
Oh
garbage,
no.
and that breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's awful.
There's one thing you guys can do is this is what I gotta say. So I used to work at the Humane Society Mission many years ago, for 7 years. So anyways, every once in a while you see somebody bring a litter of kittens. They say, oh, I found them in the garbage. I found them in the dump. I'm like, oh,
That's
so
awful.
annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, like animals.
We haven't seen any.
If you do rehome them,
Yes,
please take
yeah,
them
for
immediately.
sure. Yes, we
And
would
then the
definitely
Humane
would.
Society is down in the industrial area. It's not,
Thank you for
it's
letting
not
me
railway.
know.
It's moved over by the pizza place there.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I haven't
it-
come across it. I really hope I don't.
Okay.
But yeah, you never know.
If you do, please
For sure.
please call the Humane Society and let them know.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know about that.
Because I've seen it on YouTube.
Yeah, that's awful, hey? Do you have a question over here? Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when I see an empty coffee cup in an aisle, I would take that to the garbage, or
Oh, yeah.
when I walk through, going on my walks with my dog and through a parking lot, usually I pick them up and put them in the garbage.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that you do that. Are you in Abbotsford or
Yes,
Mission?
I am.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, my dog name is kind of goofy. I've got a lot of old clothes. Too bad we can't have something that we can recycle. Old pair of pants and then throw it into the garbage.
Yeah, I know it's hard because it's easy to just when sometimes pants and stuff you just gotta get a new pair, right?
Yeah,
But
you don't want to give them away.
I know. Yeah, that is a hard issue because sometimes I wish I was a bit more creative and would be able to patch up things and like that. But yeah, sometimes it's hard, right? But yeah, as long as you're wearing them lots and making sure you're and also another thing is to make your clothes last longer is treating them well and washing them properly and drying them properly, things like that.
Last week I did a jump rock emission.
Oh, nice.
I did that with the mission.
Okay.
We cleaned the stuff. I probably dropped before they hired me for doing to clean up for the machine garbage empty. I put the bottle in the recycle. Up for in the garbage. With all many stuff like recycle, garbage, to clean our property, for trash, our environment to do that stuff.
That's really awesome. I appreciate that you're picking up garbage. Yeah, it really makes a big difference. Even just one person.
I don't wanna laugh, but my job job is virtually picking up after people.
Oh yeah.
No, it is.
It is like that. Eh?
It is. It's a stepping stone. Yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm
Yeah.
not lying.
No,
Yeah.
he's
No, I gotta deal with the women's bathroom. I gotta deal with the store. I gotta deal with the.
Yeah, not fun. Not
No.
fun. I've
There's
been there.
No,
It's okay,
even-
I'll come back when you're out.
Yeah. Yeah, back there.
So I have a question for everybody here. Who has heard of dumpster diving or
Yeah, there's that too going on.
Yeah, I have heard of dumpster diving.
That's gross.
or you find it in the ground or in the dumpster and you actually get really beautiful clogs for it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I've seen people make lots of money out of that actually.
Yeah.
If they find a whole bunch of new versions and somebody threw it, I'm like, oh my god, it's one day's charge.
I was gonna say mine as well, right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Alright, any last questions?
Oh, good.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It was really nice talking
Thank
to
you
you.
for coming.
Yeah.